Hi, my name is Sierra Langston. I'm 25 years old, and what I'm about to tell you is the most terrifying experience I've ever survived, something I've never shared until now. I lived in a small apartment in Seattle last year, Uni 300 for Jester. Simple one bedroom, nothing fancy. But it was mine, and after my breakup, I needed a fresh start and a quiet place where I could be alone with my thoughts. The building itself was old brick and still built in the 1950s with creaky floors and walls, too thin for comfort, but the rent was affordable and I had a nice view of the city. There was one thing that made me hesitate when I signed the lease. Apartment 200 for the unit directly below mine had been vacant for years. The landlord told me it was being renovated and not safe to occupy, so I assumed it was empty. For the first couple of weeks it definitely seemed that way. No lights, no sounds, no movement, just a dusty black window and silence below me. Then late one Thursday night in February, I heard someone moving furniture downstairs, heavy furniture dragged across the floor below like a table or a dresser being shoved slowly from one wall to another. I paused my show, waited, and listened. Footsteps followed, slow and deliberate. I assumed a new tenant had moved in quietly, even though there was no announcement. That night I slept a little uneasy, but I didn't think much of it until the next morning, when I saw a letter slid under my front door. The envelope was old, yellowed and handwritten in pencil. It read, "It's not furniture, she's crawling again." I stared at it for 5 full minutes, heart thudding. There was no name, no apartment number, just those 7 words. I thought maybe it was meant for someone else, a prank, or some weird neighbor with a sense of dark humor. I threw it out. But that night the dragging returned, louder, closer, to the ceiling right beneath my bed. I stood barefoot in the dark, staring down at the hard wood, and it sounded like nails, not metal, not wood, scraping beneath me. Then silence. I barely slept. The next morning another note appeared. This time it read, "Don't tap back, she listens." I hadn't tapped, but it made me feel like I was already part of something I didn't understand. I went downstairs to check apartment 200 but the door was sealed with rusted chains, no lights, no sign of movement. The landlord, when I asked, seemed genuinely confused. "Still vacant," he said. "We haven't opened that place in years." Why? I didn't answer. That night I put my ear to the floor, stupid and scared, and listened. I heard humming, a woman's voice, low and broken, humming a lullaby over and over. Then a whisper, "She's awake now." And I realized the letters weren't warnings, they were instructions. Night after I heard the humming, I stayed awake until dawn, gripping a kitchen knife like an idiot, not knowing what else to do, because every light in my apartment flickered for hours, not from a power outage, but like something was pacing between the bulbs and dimming them one by one. First the kitchen, then the hallway, then the bathroom, each light dying in sequence like someone was walking through my space in total darkness, while I sat still, listening to the soft rhythm of humming that never stopped but never grew louder either, like it was happening from deep inside the walls or underneath the floors, far enough to feel safe, but close enough to feel real. That same morning I walked down to the building's mailbox area and found another envelope stuffed into my slot. No stamp, no address, no handwriting this time, just a small square Polaroid inside of my own apartment door, taken from outside, like someone had stood on the 3rd floor hallway and taken it the night before. There was a black smear across the door, like a shadow with no shape and no source, and behind the camera's reflection in the glass, I swear I could make out the faint outline of a girl with long hair crouched low in the hallway behind whoever took it. I ran upstairs in broad daylight, checked every inch of the hallway, my door, my windows, nothing. I thought about calling the cops, but what would I say? That I was hearing ghost furniture and getting mail from a demon neighbor? That night I placed a voice recorder on the floor beside my bed and hit record. Before I went to sleep, I woke up around 3 a.m. to find it was still recording. I straight offed it and listened back for a while. It was silent, just white noise. Then at 2:17 a.m. it picked up a whisper, "She's staring at the ceiling again." I froze. I hadn't moved. The voice was female, cracked and dry, but there was something worse. It wasn't coming from below, it was coming from the same level as me, from inside my room. At 2:24 a.m. there was a long scratching noise that got louder and louder, and then the sound of something being dragged across the floor. followed by a slam, then silence, then faintly, "Don't answer." Here she lies. When I turned to look at the recorder, I noticed the bottom corner of my bedroom wall, where the baseboard meets the floor, had a long fresh scratch running the entire length of it, as if someone had dragged something metal and sharp across it. I called the landlord again. I demanded he open apartment 200 for he said he didn't have a key, that it had been sealed off since a fire 15 years ago, and that no one had been inside since the girl who died there was carried out. I asked, "What girl?" He said her name was Danica Moore, 19 years old, went missing after neighbors heard her screaming for days. They found her inside the walls of apartment 200 for her body twisted, fingernails ripped off like she'd been trying to crawl out. After that I started packing. I wanted out, but every time I touched something to put it in a box, the humming would start. Every time I grabbed my keys, the lights would flicker. My apartment didn't want me to leave, or maybe something didn't want me to. That night I opened my closet to find a new envelope taped inside. It was blank, but something scratched into the paper from the inside read, "You're in the wrong apartment." I backed away, slammed the door, and slept in the bathtub with the lights on at exactly 2:37 a.m. All the faucets turned on by themselves, and through the water I heard her say my name. By the time night fell again, I had completely stopped trying to sleep. There was no point anymore, not when my own apartment had become a trap that breathed with me. Side behind walls whispered while I walked from room to room, and even the air vents seemed to exhale warm, rancid breath, like something deeper than mold was living inside them. And the worst part was I still hadn't left, not because I didn't want to, but because every time I touched the doorknob to leave, my vision would go dark for just a moment, and I'd come to on the floor an hour or two later, with no memory of sitting down. Like something inside the apartment was resetting me, dragging me back into the same loop, erasing time. I stopped trusting time. My phone wouldn't hold a charge. My clocks froze at 2:37, and one night, when I woke up on the couch again, the TV was on even though I hadn't touched the remote in days, showing static. And behind the noise, I heard a voice. I recognized my own voice speaking softly from inside the static, whispering things I'd never said. "She's not below anymore. She lives in the cracks now." I threw the TV against the wall, but it kept playing, screen cracked, humming until I unplugged it. That's when the phone rang, my landline. It had never worked. I picked it up, and a girl's voice rasped, "You left the door open. I'm here now." Then silence, then the creak of a floorboard in my hallway. I ran, locked myself in the bedroom, but when I turned to check the door, I saw something that undid me completely. My bedroom mirror wasn't reflecting my showed the hallway outside it. Showed the back of a girl, long black hair soaked to the scalp, walking slowly toward my room. She didn't knock, she didn't speak, but the mirror pulsed like it was a screen. Like I was looking at a live feed of something happening seconds ahead of me. I backed away, grabbed my phone, tried to film it, but nothing showed, just my reflection. When I looked back, she was gone, but my bedroom door clicked open alone. I didn't move for hours. In the morning, I tried the landlord one last time. I told him something was wrong with 200 for he sounded like he was crying when he said there is no apartment 200 for anymore. I said I was standing above it. He said that fire hollowed out the entire space. It was sealed. We just never renumbered the floors. There is nothing down there. You've been above a void. I dropped the phone. I stood in the hallway for what felt like an eternity, staring at the spot below my floor. I realized what the note meant. You're in the wrong apartment, because the presence wasn't coming from below me anymore. It was all around me. I was inside her space now. I had crossed over without realizing it. The dragging, the humming, the tapping in the pipes. It was never coming up from underneath. It was trying to come through the walls. The fourth night, I stopped fighting it, not because I had found peace, but because I realized the apartment wasn't going to let me leave until it showed me everything, until I accepted that it wasn't haunted in the traditional sense. It was alive, feeding, growing stronger. The more I noticed, the more I believed, and now it wanted to show me its heart, and the heart was beneath me in the space I thought didn't exist. So I moved the couch, peeled back the rug, and beneath a warped floorboard, I'd never noticed before was a hatch sealed with a single rusty nail, like it had been hidden just well enough for someone to eventually find it, someone like me. And the second I pried it open, a wave of hot metallic air hit my face, and I heard the humming louder than I'd ever heard it before, not in my head now, but rising in my bones like my blood had tuned into the signal, and I shined a flashlight down into the narrow crawl space that opened beneath the floor. It wasn't just wood and dust, it was covered in words scratched violently into every beam, repeating phrases like she watches through glass, and the voice is not yours, and don't answer back, over and over. And at the far end of the crawl space, curled up like she was waiting for me, was a girl, or something that used to be a girl, her limbs to long, her hair, with her fingernails clicking against the wall in rhythm with the humming. And when her head twisted slowly to look at me, I didn't see eyes. I saw mirrors, twin silver ovals reflecting me back, and when her mouth opened, I didn't hear a scream, I heard my own voice saying. Finally, I fell backward, scrambled away, but the hatch slammed shut on its own, and I blacked out when I woke up. The room was bright, silent, normal. I was lying on the couch like I'd never moved it. No hatch, no scratch marks, no sound, just stillness. My phone was fully charged. The clocks were ticking again. It was like the apartment had hit reset, but I wasn't the same. When I walked past mirrors now, they lagged a second behind me. When I spoke aloud, I swore I could hear a second whisper layered just beneath my own voice. And then came the letters again. New ones slipped under my door. Every night she likes your voice. Let her use it. The others are listening. The landlord stopped answering my calls. Neighbors started disappearing. And worst of all, I began humming in my sleep. I caught myself humming the same tune she hummed before I ever heard it. I don't think I ever left that crawl space. I think I died in there, or at least the version of me that was real did. What's walking around now? What's writing this? What's reading this to you? It knows how to be me, and it's waiting to move upstairs. This story is written and edited by Dark Life Side Diaries. Yes, thank you for staying with this story until the very end. What did you feel? What scared you the most? Like, share, and subscribe before the hum begins under your floor.